Welcome to 144,000teachers.org, the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. As we look at the School of Agriculture, ABC of Education and Survival, we have proceeded in looking at the value of agriculture as the ABC of education, the sabbatical years in agriculture, as well as preparing now for the events ahead of us. And as we also took a look at agriculture, a school of a new order, now it has brought us to the Sabbath rest. And the first part of the Sabbath rest that we have wanting to present is the repairers of the breach with the validity of the October 22nd, 1844 position. This research has been presented in order for us to understand better where is the true Sabbath today, the Sabbath of creation. Is it possible to retrace it from the Word of God? And the answer is yes, it is possible to retrace it. And it's related to October 22nd, 1844 restored. And we know that in the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 14, there is there a wonderful revelation when we read the verse, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. We need to look further into this research in order to find out if this has an application in history. And we know that the Millerites in the 1800 era studied and basically by the grace of God were given the wonderful explanation of the 2300 days. This research was led by William Miller in the early 1820s, followed with a group of people who later were known as the Millerites. And the question that we have is why and how did the Millerites ultimately fix with certainty the precise day of October 22nd as the exact terminus of the 2300 years in 1844? And the answer is given very clearly as we look at all of the wonderful manuscripts that have been left for us to peruse. But there was also many questions regarding this research, and in particular with a gentleman by the name of M.L. Andreasen, who objected to the publication of the validity of October 22nd, 1844 position in 1939. And in order for you to better understand his position, you may want to click on this particular link here, and you will have a better understanding. And also we are giving you here a resume of his position and why was he concerned about this publication. The main issue as you continue to study and pray and ask the Lord to guide you is because it shows without a shadow of a doubt that the October 22nd date in 1844 reestablished the biblical calendar. And what was discovered after it was analyzed again in 1939 by a group of scholars, it was definitely showing that the 7-day Sabbath does not always occur on Saturday, Gregorian reckoning. We invite you to research if you have never done it before. These are actually the main important manuscript of the collection of this validity of October 22nd, 1844 position. And we encourage you to read these first. They're called the 6-part series of that collection, including the letter of conveyance. This you will be able then, after you have studied these first manuscripts, to have an understanding of where the Millerites had come with the dates of the 22nd of October 1844, and also the conclusion that has been drawn in the 1939 era, 1995 era, to come to 2007, when this collection was purchased, literally purchased, in order to study it and find out more about what it was all about. Was October 22nd, 1844 valid? The conclusion of the scholars in 1939 was definitely. But why did it not go any further? Again, it's because it demonstrates that Saturday Gregorian reckoning is not the true creation Sabbath of the Bible. So please start with these manuscripts first, because there are further manuscripts in the collection which were obtained in 2007, and they had not been published until this year, 2022. And the reason is because the time had not come yet. Also, we encourage you to look at the correspondence which we submit here. All of these are manuscripts, as well as what Eli Froom, an historian at the time of the research in 1939 on the validity of October 22nd, 1844 position, which, contrary to M.L. Andreasen, could see a very, very strong points that would be in favor of demonstrating the biblical calendar, including the Sabbath of the sanctuary. And at this point, we would like to read this particular paragraph, being short, and we encourage you again to read the whole link that we give you regarding M.L. Andreasen position. But this one here is valid for us to look into, since we have accepted the 7-day Sabbath for now over 15 years and followed it according to the biblical calendar of the Millerites. We read, "Such was the firm foundation laid by the seventh month movement heralds of the first angel message between August and October 1844. Such was the sure position maintained and strengthened by the pioneers of the third angel's message, as the advancing light on the sanctuary truth explained the nature of the event which had actually transpired on that all-important day in the heavenly sanctuary above, and which now involved the testing truth of the Sabbath. Let there be no confusion or uncertainty upon the sanctuary truth. Acquaintance with its unassailable proofs and their full justification before the world and the church means spiritual confidence and satisfaction of soul, and in consequence, an aggressive forwarding of the banner of truth in the midst of the collapsing standards and growing uncertainties all about us. We are a people with a heavenly message and a divine mandate to which we must ever adhere with unswerving allegiance." And this is part 6, Eli Froom, 1939, and it's part 6 that we showed you above, including the letter of conveyance, which was also written by Eli Froom. Now we give here copyright value of people questioning if we are allowed to publish this, and we would like to read that for you. Fair use for educational purposes. We are a federally incorporated charitable organization since 1982, offering a true education-based curriculum through 144,000teachers.org and Generation 144K. Now, the Millerites were prisoners of hope. The great day of atonement of October 22nd, 1844, restored the biblical calendar of Leviticus 23 and is now the testing truth of the 7-day Sabbath. And as we proceed now, we will show you the calculation and observation of the biblical calendar in modern time can be computed through the moon phases data, which is the calculation, and the fractions of the moon illuminated data, which is the observation. And this is actually the way the biblical calendar was always computed to, first of all, calculation and then observation. And this, you will discover that as you study this collection on the validity of the position of October 22nd, 1844. This is what the Millerites had discovered, and that's how they proceeded to establish the date of 22nd of October 1844, which in the Great Controversy, Mrs. White says that date is unimpeachable, which means it cannot be impeached. So we need to follow through with it and make sure we understand it. We give you here the data that have been gathered for calculation and observation, specifically from the U.S. Naval Observatory. For calculation, you use the moon phases. And for observation, we use the fractions of the moon. We have also done a computation of October 22nd, 1844, based on the data of USNO, which can be obtained at their website for 1844. They have actually 1700 years of data that you can refer to. Also, we have computed the calendar for 2020 to 2030, including all the feasts and the 7-day Sabbath, based on the same premises as the Millerite had calculated October 22nd, 1844. We also give you, for your perusal and also for listening, a study on Standing on Trial, Biblical Calendar with the PDF format and the video format. You may want to start studying this before even starting to figure out how to calculate the calendar and see if we are accurate in our calculation. Also, we offer to you the computation of the biblical calendar in a PDF format and as well a video format. And this video here is very, very important, which must follow this one, because it is using the data of the U.S. Naval Observatory. And these data are definitely valid, as they do point very accurately to the 22nd of October 1844 as being the great day of atonement for that year, which by the grace of God reestablished the biblical calendar. So we don't need to necessarily go back to the Old Testament or even the New Testament. We can start with this date, which is much closer to us, and from there it is possible to then retract with the 2300 days data that we know of the Millerite, and then we can find the crucifixion of Christ, the exact date. We are going back slightly because we have also for you a full collection to present, and this is how you obtain it. And the full collection is here, the manuscripts that were obtained from this collection, and you will be able to click on every one of them and study further for yourself. We definitely recommend that you start with the 6-part series, because these manuscripts here form the basis of what the 1939 group that studied, or scholars that studied again the validity of October 22nd, 1844, and how they drew their conclusion to that 6-part series. We just want to show you that it's included again here. The letter of convenience with the 6-part series is right here. So this is quite a collection, and it may take you quite a long time to study it, which is fine, but we do recommend that you are grounded before you try to counteract with other people, because there are many people on the network, on the media, that have studied also the biblical calendar, but they do not come to the same conclusion as we come here, because many of them are not part of the 1844 movement, so they do not agree or even know about it. So they use premises that are different than the one that we have studied with. We have strictly remained with the basis of October 22nd, 1844, in which we believe. So that's why this collection is very valid for us, but it may not be for most people. We have a console here that we want to say in regard to this, and then we will return again for another part of that page for you to pay attention and for your perusal. But this comes from Historical Sketches of the Foreign Mission from Mrs. Ellen G. White, page 197. Those who cling to old customs and hoary errors have lost sight of the fact that light is ever increasing upon the path of all who follow Christ. Truth is constantly unfolding to the people of God. We must be continually advancing if we are following our leader. It is when we walk in the light that shines upon us, obeying the truth that is open to our understanding, that we receive greater light. We cannot be excusable in accepting only the light which our fathers had 100 years ago. If our God-fearing fathers had seen what we see and heard what we hear, they would have accepted the light and walked in it. If we desire to imitate their faithfulness, we must receive the truth open to us as they received those presented to them. We must do as they would have done had they lived in our day. We also have a very strong invitation to present to those who would like to study further the wonderful biblical calendar. And this is a message from Biblical Calendar Movement. All these evidences need to be re-examined in the light of the Great Day of Atonement computation of October 22nd, 1844, for it is so bold, so utterly non-conventional, so potentially upsetting, radically altering the central aspects of the biblical, astronomical, chronological, historical, cultural, economic, and political understanding of most people. It should not be ignored. We intend, through this calendar restoration, to begin a most interesting debate and critical discussion of all relevant issues, for the last great conflict may have just begun. And you can click on this link here for another of our website on the Biblical Calendar Movement. Just want to go back slightly here to show you the part that we want to bring your attention to and invite you to study. It's a fairly long study and it's a PDF format. All the PDF format that we have here can be copied, including that collection. And basically, it's here that we would like to show you William Miller's dream revealed here. And if you were to click here, you would have then the collection of the dream that he had regarding, which we find in early writing, page 80. And it's regarding the two trunks that he saw in a dream. One was very small and the other one was very large. And the very small one was full of wonderful precious stone and silver and gold and beautiful treasure. But then when he wanted to share it with the people, they started to take it away from the trunk and basically they put it all over the room, scattered them, and then they became all mixed up with dust and pieces of woods and false gold and false silver and false coin and false stones. And to his dismay, he could not control the crowd. And with it, that came with was a key that was making him possible to open that trunk to them. And so he was very much sad and very much afraid that him who had trusted him with that trunk would now be quite upset. But then a man with a dust brush came into the room and started cleaning up all the jewel and all the stone and all the precious money that they had there, the coins. And instead of the small trunk, which had been torn apart by the crowd, now he gave him a larger trunk, much more beautiful, and he started to put all the precious stone and the coin and the silver and the gold in that trunk. And when William Miller saw it, how imperfectly ordered that it was in the throne. By looking at it, it was so beautiful. It shined 10 times brighter. And he exclaimed how beautiful it was, and he woke up. Well, you may want to understand further that dream because it's related directly, we believe, to the church who was to carry that message, the three angels' message, and also that had received this wonderful message about the calendar. And the church goes through a lot of trial, just like Israel of old. But at the end, the remnant of that church will triumph in carrying this message throughout the whole world. And the people will be given an opportunity to look at this calendar, which is the worship time that the Lord had always intended for us to observe, but which was changed according to the prophecy of Daniel 7, verse 25, where we know after the conflict in heaven, Lucifer had promised himself that he would change the times and the laws, and he was actually permitted to do so. Time stands for calendar, and the laws, we know that it has to do with the seasons, which has to do with all of the feasts of the Lord, not only the 7-day Sabbath, but the monthly Sabbath, the feasts of the Lord, spring and fall, and also the celebration of the beautiful years of jubilees that brings us from the sabbatical years to the jubilee. And this is what we have accepted and studied for now over close to 20, 30 years, because we started in the 1990s to study this. And now we have come to the fullness of the biblical calendar with the 7-day Sabbath and the sabbatical years and the Jubilee. So we hope you take time to revise all this. This is here for your perusal, and we encourage you to study it carefully. And before even you attempt to present it to other people, you may want to pray and fast and be grounded yourself. It's very easy to get excited, and it's much harder to keep the faith when we meet contradiction. So we pray and ask the Lord to be with you and guide you so that you can see these things if they are so. And then as the Lord gives you guidance, then you go and pass it on. Maybe people will wonder why this had not been presented before. It's because in His wisdom, the Lord knows when His people are ready. So may the Lord bless you and cause His face to shine upon you and give you peace always.